You're listening to WorkWire, sponsored by Career Club and SHRM. Career Club has a range of services aimed at job seekers with an empathetic approach. Whether you are a job seeker yourself, know someone who is in job search, or an HR professional looking to bring a more empathetic approach to transitioning employees, check out career.club. If you are an HR professional seeking to enhance your skills, subscribe to SHRM and explore their extensive resources. Visit shrm.org. That's shrm.org.
Hello, everybody. This is Bob Goodwin, president of Career Club. Welcome to another episode of The WorkWire, where I'm joined by my good friend, the president and CEO of SHRM, Johnny C. Taylor Jr. Johnny, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well, Bob. I'm always well when I'm going to be talking to you. So life is good. Life is good. I mean it.
No. It's great to see you. I know you've been super busy this past week. And for listeners, we're taping this the same week Johnny just got back from testifying before the Senate Armed Services Committee. Wow. Very good. Very, very good. Thank you. You did a wonderful job. Today, we're actually going to build on a previous episode. So we had recently spoken with Shiv Shivakumar, who's an executive in India and just a tremendous thought leader on leadership. And one of the things that he brought up serendipitously was around followership. And he shared a statistic that said that he did a Google search on leadership and he got 6.2 billion, that's with a B, hits on leadership. Clearly a popular title. Then he typed in followership and he got 3 million hits. I'm from Tennessee. My math skills are not that good, but if you do 3 million over 6.2 billion, that's 0.0005.
Right.
So yeah, that's a small number. People are not really thinking a lot about followership, certainly not to the extent that they're thinking about leadership. And offline, you and I have talked. It's like, well, if there's no followers, then what is the leader really doing? And what does it mean to be a great follower? And is that even a desirable thing to be? So I'll kind of tee it up to you there, Johnny. We talk a lot about leadership. We're going to unpack followership a little bit. Where's your mind go initially?
So to what I was taught really, really early, and I think all of us were by our parents, don't be a follower. Right, you're supposed to be a leader. When you're trying to, I have a 13-year-old daughter, as you know, and you do everything that you can to encourage your children not to just be a follower. So no surprise, by the way, that there are only 3 million hits versus 6 odd billion hits on leadership, because from very early on, we teach folks the importance of being a leader. Yeah. The fact of the matter is all of us can't be leaders. Like there's one CEO, there's one head coach, there's this lead actor, whatever, one department head. And so in some ways we are where we are because of what we have said and what we have promoted and taught and developed people to understand. And I find it fascinating. There are two things. So one is the observation that we are where we are because this is what we've emphasized, right? The second thing is leaders have unfortunately not stopped and thought, I am only leading because there are people following by definition. Like you cannot have one without the other. And I know we're going to spend some time, and during the conversation with Shiv, we talked about it. In a world where there was vertical top-down leadership, that worked because people were forced to follow the person who was appointed, elected, whatever, the king or queen. In this new world, which is more of a horizontal world, you can't just be made the CEO. Frankly, you and I have talked about this as well. It's why CEO turnover is at an all-time high because the board can't just say, this is going to be your leader, stick with it, and that person's going to be there for 30 years, and if you don't like it, leave. That's not the way it works anymore. Employees speak up, different stakeholders, partners, you just can't lead the way you used to. So followership is something that we don't discuss and probably don't teach even in our leadership programs enough. And ultimately, I believe going forward from a 21st century business environment, if we don't start to sensitize leaders to the importance of followership, they're going to continue to lose their jobs because the followers are quickly dethroning the leaders.
The irony too is every leader is also a follower. You
By
have
definition.
you have a
Yep.
board, right?
Yep.
I have customers, I have clients.
That's right.
And right, I mean, they can fire me at a moment's notice as well. But to the point about son, be a follower, daughter,
Right.
be a follower. Don't be a leader. Be a leader. Don't be a follower. Like and don't do what the crowd is doing. Don't do whatever. Okay, there are really good qualities about that, right? And autonomy, and sense of morally directing yourself. But at the
That's right.
same time, within an organization, in a team, not everybody can be the quarterback, right? And
Right.
there are other roles on a team that are extremely valuable, maybe just not as visible. There's three qualities that I just wanted to kind of get you to kind of start riffing on here a little bit, Johnny, and see if we can kind of build the theme out here a little bit. But as I was thinking about, what are some of the character qualities of people who are great followers? Three things that just sort of popped in my mind. One was humility.
Yes.
ability
Number
to,
one.
the ability to subjugate my ego to a greater cause than just
Right.
me, which kind of relates to the next one, which is a level of selflessness. It's not actually all about me.
Right.
And then the third piece, and I bet if we did a word cloud on the most common word that we use on the work wire, is trust. There
Yes.
has to be mutual trust.
Right.
And so humility, selflessness, and trust, where's that take your mind?
Yeah, the humility, it's so funny. I didn't know where you're going to go, but humility was literally the first word that came to my mind. My first thought was like, yeah, and it's not a fake humility, because I've met some leaders who appear to be humble, but in their core of core, they're not. And listen, it's a challenge because leaders, and I said this to you several times, in fact, most recently with Shiv, was people do rally behind decisive, fearless leaders
Yes.
who, in the face of adversity, you step up. And even if you have doubts, you can't message the doubts to your employees because at once they're looking for someone, they know the world's falling apart. They need leadership. I had the good fortune of interviewing George Bush in the front of 20,000 people. And I asked him, here you are, 9/11, you get the call, you're at the elementary school reading to the kids. What do you do? And he said, I must project calm. Those are the two words I will never forget. He said, every leader. Well, in some ways that conflicts with humility, right? Because you're being told this is not the time to say, oh my gosh, the rest of the world is attacking us. And no, you've got to say, and we will taunt them down. We will track them down. We're going to do what we do. Like, this is what America's about. So I think the challenge is you've got to project confidence and calm and leadership, but inside you acknowledge that you're vulnerable
Mm.
and that and the leader who can figure out how to do both of those things at once is going to be the successful leader. But I don't know that I'd want to follow someone who is too humble, right? That's not interesting either. No, I mean, how do you react to that?
No, so well, there's leaders who can exhibit true humility, and then there are the followers who are humble enough to say, you know what, that's a decision that's been made. I'm on this team. It isn't about me being right. It's about us collectively figuring out what is the best course forward. And so for me, the humility on the part of the follower
Yes.
is, not fighting for the steering wheel all the time.
Right.
Right. And it's interesting at Career Club, we're very big into emotional intelligence, as I know that you are. And what did I hear you say? This is a great line. They're not soft skills, they're power skills. And and so one of the instruments that we like is DISC. And there's
Yes.
kind of four, communication styles. And I think they're broader than just communication. But the top two, with drivers and influencers, those tend to be the leader kinds of personality types. But then there's the S's and the C's, and the S is like harmony. Like
Yes.
they're excellent number two people. They're the glue that actually keeps an organization together. My wife doesn't want to be the leader. She likes
Right.
being, the person that drives harmony with things, but she doesn't need to be the leader. And then the C's are the people that are like way deep into the details. And again, they just want it to be right. They don't have to be the person in front. So, I think, one of the things that I would hope that we can start to foster a conversation on is, acknowledging and recognizing great followers. Like,
Right. Right.
Bob, or Brian or Susan, you are the glue that keeps us. Yeah, I'm the one that gets the headlines. You're the glue that actually keeps this whole thing going. And we don't have the successful company that we have, the successful organization that we have, without you, your humility, your selflessness, and your commitment to the organization.
Well, and it's funny from an HR perspective, we've got to figure out how to reward followers. Because part of the problem with the entire system is the leaders make the most money. And the quarterback makes more money than the rest of the folks. And the coach makes a certain amount of money over the non-coaches, right? So head coach. So the systems don't encourage good followership. Like, you know what I mean? And so we've got to take into consideration that everyone wants to do well financially and in their career. They want to be seen as a success with their children and their family members, et cetera. So we've got to say it is okay to be a follower, again, which is totally inconsistent with what most of us were told or tell our children. And we've got to say there's actually so much value in that until we're going to pay you for that. We're going to reward you in some way. So you made me actually think about it. It's easy to say it, but how much, what in our reward systems say it's actually good for you to be a follower?
Right.
And that's something that I think we as HR practitioners, those of you who are listening to the Workwire, we should revisit. If you want, what's that old line? That which gets rewarded gets repeated. So if you want people to be a follower, it's more than just talking about it. We've got to reward it.
Yep, that's great. And there's financial capital and there's also social capital, right?
That's right.
And so, like, you are our employee of the year, and here's why. You're our associate, teammate, whatever the vernacular is, of the year, and here's why. I think too, but I want to go back to your point because I was thinking the same thing. Our system rewards leaders. You make the most money. You've also, and you've talked about this in previous episodes, you've also got the most responsibility. So it cuts both ways. But the leadership team is responsible for setting the strategy, making thoughtful choices to direct the business. But it's upon the followers to execute against that strategy. And are we measuring the things and rewarding the things that help the strategy get done? And if we are, then we've probably got a pretty good system. The other thing I want to say just very quickly on rewarding people is also not punishing people, because what I mean by that, and this is going back to our conversation with Shiv, so apologies for these frequent references, but I guess you need to go listen to that episode, but is the intellectual honesty. So if I'm a great follower, a really great follower, I can go to you, Johnny, and say, what you said, what you did, I'm not the result that you wanted. I want to tell you how that actually landed. Right. Or whatever, but truly in the organization's best interest and the mutual trust, going back to that idea that I can tell you the truth as I see it and not be punished for it. Otherwise, I'm just going to go in a corner and say, to heck with it.
That's right. The opposite of rewarding, but it also goes to your second point. So you talked about humility, but selflessness. The way that you operationalize what you just described is, if it's all about you as a leader, if it is always all about you, you're always right, and you're not doing this for the good. I often am confronted with that as a leader of SHRM. sure, I go give testimony. So everyone's buzzing. Johnny Taylor was before the U.S. Armed Services Committee, et cetera. But you know why I did that? Not for my, glory, but because our elected officials need to know that you protect this homeland one individual at a time. It takes all of those 700,000 military folks and 1.4 million, whatever the numbers are, millions of people, individual followers. Because yes, you have generals and admirals and all of that, but ultimately the person who is putting their lives on the line and going in and protecting this homeland are people. So, but in the process of doing it, if it becomes all about the leader, yes, the leader is going to get the attention. I say that to my folks all the time. The number of times when Congress didn't call and ask for my smartest governmental affairs person to come and give testimony. That's just not how it works. They want the leader to make the statement. But what I have to do, and I think I do decently, and I'm hoping leaders, if I want to get better at it too, by the way, is be reminded. So I bring my support staff with me and say, hey guys, I'm just a talking head. You prepped me. You researched me. You told me what the issues were, what mines not to step on, et cetera. Don't want to use that context in the Department of Defense context, and recognize those people, show them love, shower the attention. At the end of the day, I can't put them on that seat in the front of those members of the U.S. Senate because that's not who they want to hear from. But as you use your term, selflessness, I've got to make it really clear to my team that I'm the talking head, but you are the reason we are here. If you do that, and if you do that from an honest space, not just, the talking point, people are my most important asset, but if you genuinely communicate to your employees that you matter and that I just have to go out here and be the front, people will follow you.
Yes. And so you raised the topic a minute ago about, how a leader can also demonstrate humility while not kind of inadvertently going into weakness, because nobody wants to follow a weak leader. I think this idea of you having enough confidence to be able to hear the truth,
right,
and me having enough trust in you that I can tell you the truth,
right,
that's a healthy organization, right? And even, this is what I love about even how we talk about stuff, is like, I'm not just agreeing on every point, you're not agreeing on every point. It's like, well, yeah, but also, and so it's the humility to be open to maybe a way of seeing something that you didn't understand or recognize. I think is an amazing quality in a leader, but that also requires trust that I am not going to be penalized for telling you the truth in a respectful way.
That's right. And again, and I can say this from the hat of the leader, we need our followers to recognize that we too are human beings. We're not infallible. So just as you need to, I have to give you, right, a culture, an environment where you feel like it's okay to tell me respectfully. It's not okay to be uncivil. We talk a lot about civility this year at SHRM. It's not okay to be uncivil, disrespectful. Imagine working for the president of the United States and you hear that person, that the leader of the world, essentially, the leader of the United States say something wrong. You're supposed to figure out how to let him know, Mr. President, that's not quite right, but I wouldn't put him on blast in the front of, the world leaders. That's not the way to get it done. So followers also have to be mindful of how important it is for your leader to be respected by other leaders.
Yes.
And so when and how you bring the mistake, the shortcoming to our attention is as important. And that's what followers, since we're talking about followership today, I don't want to get too adrift on, because we've already said they talk a lot about leadership, but followers have to be very thoughtful about how they also bring it to our attention. I was at observed a CEO, I won't name the company, who met with their employees, and the employees just went in and attacked the CEO. And at the end of the open forum, the CEO was just taking the hits, thinking that it said, I'm showing you that I'm vulnerable, I'm humble, I'm this. I said, no. One never disrespects the position. I took
Yes.
Air Force ROTC. You always respect the position, right? And that's what can happen is sometimes I think there's an overcorrection and the followers think I can say anything to you, how I want to say it, when I want to say it, where I want to say it, in the name of transparency, and that's not cool either. That's not good followership.
Yeah, we talk a lot about respect, civility, like that has to be the stage for honest discussion to be happening. Otherwise, it's just mean spirited and
That's right.
selfish. I just want to say what I want to say. I don't care how you receive it. That's your problem. That's the opposite of selflessness,
That's right.
right?
No,
Um,
1000%.
from your where you sit, Johnny, what else can this is going to sound kind of weird as it comes out, but what else can leaders be doing to foster a culture of trust?
Wow. So we need a whole nother conversation on that. But I'm going to give you the two things that again, I'm talking about Shiv again, but we've got to communicate better. Bottom line is, in the absence of good communication, verbal and written, your employees don't know what you really believe. They don't know what you think. They don't know the strategy. They don't understand that the layoffs were intentional. Necessary evil that we needed to protect. We needed to lay off 10% of the workforce to protect 90%. That we needed to do this. We are notoriously not good communicators. And I own that as a leader. It's something that I try to focus on a lot. It's really hard to get people to rally behind you if they don't exactly know where you're going. And just because you know it in your head, like you're too often really smart people and leaders, like they know what they're doing in their head, but that's not okay, particularly in a workforce where people voluntarily show up every day. That was another Shiv's comments. Like you've got to think about your employees as volunteers. And if you don't, and you think somehow you control them and they will do that because you said do it when you said, then you're going to fail over the long run and perhaps in the short run. So I would say that's a big opportunity for leaders as we think about followership, is we've got to communicate if we want people to embrace followership. The second thing I mentioned, obviously, is rewarding them. We've got to come up with ways to reward financially and otherwise, recognition and ways celebrating people who are really good followers so that we help shift the narrative away from everyone should be the leader, because there can only be one ultimately, and at a certain level, the CEO or the president or the executive director, whatever you want to call it. And so we've got to figure out how to cascade. I think the third thing that I think about a lot is, and it's in this concept of, if you want I don't know what the right term is, but if you want people if followership, so I'm going to focus on followers. If you want your leader to be vulnerable, then you have to give them the space to be vulnerable, right? And so that's odd because the leader, followers are like, no, we've got to give it to the leader. No, the leader, what you need to give your leader is the space to be able to pull you together and say, you know what? I don't know what the future is. We talked about VUCA. Yeah, it is absolutely a VUCA world. And the reality is, I'm guessing too.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a lawyer, when I practiced law, we would always say, we are called practitioners because we can't guarantee the result. Like we're practicing law. And by definition, if you're practicing, sometimes you're going to be wrong.
Yes.
We leaders need permission from our followers to be able to be wrong.
So thank you for saying that, because where that has been taking my mind is to be a great follower is to assume good intent.
Right. Yes.
Assume good intent. If you're working, I'll just say this straight up to anybody who's listening or watching this right now. If you're working at a place where you cannot assume good intent on the part of your employer, I can't tell you strongly enough, go find another place to work.
Right.
Like if you cannot assume good, that is the definition of distrust, that I do not believe that their intentions are good. That's a problem. If I do believe that their intentions are good, then I do think that creates the right environment for the leader to say, I don't know, or
right.
I thought this was right. It didn't work out. We thought as a leadership team, we keep kind of individualizing leaders. As a group, we thought this was the right direction or the right innovation or the right move to partnership to go take on. It didn't work out the way that we thought that it was going to work out. And they're not crucified for it by the followers. But
Right.
recognition, everybody's doing the best they know how. And in some
Right.
cases, to your point on VUCA, the best they don't know how.
Which is more likely in this world that we live in to be the case. Who would have thunk 3 years ago that there'd be this thing called AI and that it would lead to the level of displacement of roles and just a total shift in the workforce it's just none of us. I was actually talking to a friend of mine who's, let's just say, a day over 40 and saying, I never grew up. Bob, you tell me, in my wildest imagination, my wildest dreams, I watched George Jetson. Do you remember that? Right? I never thought that in my hand, I would have all of the computing power of, it's just unimaginable. Or I was riding down the street with my daughter and thinking, I don't have to know where I'm going at all. I'm going to type the address in. Worse yet, all I got to do is type in the name of the organization, the first few letters of a restaurant. It knows where I am, it populates, and it says, this is how you get there. I don't have to think about a map or anything. This happened in the last decade, my friends, not 50 years, like the decade. So you're asking leaders, followers, you all are asking us to kind of know what the world's going to look like 5 years from now. You're not sure what it's going to look like a year from now. It's just too many unknowns.
I want to, and I know we need to wrap up here very, very quickly. There's just one point that you're making, because I was thinking about, like, I'm the world's worst of Google just telling me where to go. And
Right.
Okay. And then, like, you end up in an alley somewhere, like, dude, blind followership is not good either.
It's not good.
Okay.
That's right.
And so, the making sure, does this organization and where they're trying to lead it, does it align with my values? Is this a culture that I can truly give my best to, that I can get behind the purpose of either, the culture, the customers we serve, the product that we make? Like, can I genuinely, as a human being, not just a work producing unit, get
Right.
behind this? Then I'm going to be a really good follower, and I'm going to contribute to the success of the company, our consumers, and the leaders. Then that should be pretty fulfilling for a lot of people, particularly for those who do not actually aspire to leadership roles. Great salesperson doesn't necessarily want to be the sales manager. I love being an individual contributor. Like, I don't want adult daycare and taking care of everybody else. I want to do my own thing. But my point being is that to be a great follower, you need to really make sure that the company that you're at, the organization you're a part of, aligns with your personal values. If that is true enough, because nowhere is perfect.
Right.
If that is true enough, then you've got a great chance of being a great follower. I want to do some more thinking, Johnny, with you on how to re-engineer the reward system, so that just because I've got a VP title and you've got a senior manager title, senior manager can make more than the VP.
Yep. Happens a lot.
Because of how they contribute and their role as a follower, not just their title.
All day, we know individual contributors can be paid for being great individuals. It goes back to a seminal point here. Everyone can't be a leader, but everyone wants to do well in their career, make more money, So we've got to develop systems that say it's okay to be a follower for the next 30 years. You don't have to aspire to be in the C-suite and that. The other thing that you said is, and I love that point about, am I aligned with that culture? And I think you said most of the time, or generally, or however you qualified, it was great, because you're right. You'll never always be 100%. But this is now the pressure back on. The onus is on leaders. You can't expect people to make that determination if you've not articulated your culture, if you've not articulated the values, right? Every employee won't agree with them, and some people will choose not to work with you because they don't agree with it. But if you don't tell them, you're asking them to make a decision without the input. So communication, once again, is critical for leaders. And in followers, you all have to give us feedback if we're not making it clear enough.
Yep.
If our communication is not effective, and it's by definition not effective if you don't understand it, then that's the work for both sides. So I think leaders and followers should have a great relationship, symbiotic. You can't live without the other. And if we do this right, our organizations will thrive.
Could not say it better. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up with that, Johnny. That was an excellent summation. So thank you. For listeners and viewers, if you've got thoughts on this, this is obviously a very wide open kind of a topic. And what works well for you as a follower, where you've seen that work well in organizations or not work well. But we'd love to hear from you. So you're welcome to email me at bob@career.club. Would love to get your thoughts. In the meantime, we thank you so much for investing a few minutes out of your day today. And Johnny, thank you again for everything that you shared with us. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone. Be well. Work well.
Work wire. Come on. Bye-bye.
Check out career.club for personalized help with your job search. Visit shrm.org to become part of the largest human resources organization worldwide.